the curtain slowly opened, and then not one, not two, but seven students came in. So the doctor was like, okay, there'll be one by one trying to feel your testicle. What? You didn't tell me this? What's up, guys? Since opening about my cancer, I have been getting questions and queries on my IG DMs about my whole cancer journey and things like finances as well as like mental health, and I'll be answering them now. Okay, so for those of you who just tuned in and have no context whatsoever, basically I was diagnosed with testicular cancer. I talked about it in this video over here, and I also went through chemo, which I vlogged in a video right over here. Okay, so I'll just be reading some of the questions from here. How much was your entire treatment? Okay, at least for me, there were two aspects to it. The first one is being diagnosed and going for surgery. Generally, they will take out that lump or like cancerous thing, send it to biopsy. Then they will see if it's cancer or not, or if they have to remove the whole thing. For mine, because my right ball was like literally the size of a kiwi. You imagine a normal testicle is like bigger, slightly bigger than a grape, or like those like ginormous grapes from NTUC, right? Mine was like this, and it was even hard. And I guess the doctors were like, you know what, we gotta get rid of it because it is just growing at an alarming rate. So that's the first aspect of the treatment, taking out the lump or taking out the cancerous cells. And also I stayed in a class A ward, which is very nice for me because I'm a light sleeper. So I managed to get some sleep before and after my surgery. So the total cost of that first aspect of the treatment, right, like the surgical stuff, is $9,928.39. Then for the second part of the treatment, right, is basically chemotherapy. And chemotherapy is basically like drugs, right? Drugs in your system killing every single cell. And that actually costs $4,632.49. So there's actually a third aspect which I totally forgot, and that is like the constant going to the doctor every month for checkup, and those things also add up. So for every single checkup, I have to pay consultation fees, obviously, and that would cost around like $150 to $200 depending on maybe which level of doctor that you're seeing, and not including the fact that I was also seeking fertility treatments, so I had to do sperm banking and stuff like that, and that is also cost upon cost upon cost upon cost. So all in all, I incurred around $20,000 to $25,000, which is a lot, and I'm very happy that I don't have to cough up $25K in cash because I was covered by a hospital insurance which is called Singlife Shield, and I also have a rider that is called Singlife Health Plus. Correct me if I'm wrong, my FA out there, it's basically like a 95% coverage for my hospital plan, and then the last 5% is using MediSave. How much cash did you fork up after subsidies from insurance and MediSave? Purely treatment wise, it was fully covered because of my insurance and MediSave. But I think it's important to note that there are other expenses aside from treatment that have been incurred because of the change in your lifestyle and things like transport and special food. I say this many times, but I'm really very fortunate and very lucky to be able to maintain a job so that I can still earn every month despite not having a critical illness plan. So for those of you guys who don't know what a CI plan is, it's basically like an income replacer. So if any case, right, you don't have the energy or you don't have the health to continue your job, you can just stop working and they'll give you the lump sum, and you can use that as like your income replacement lah, and you can still live and not worry about your finances too much. Okay, so for me, right, the biggest expense was actually transport, because when I was going through chemo, I had to go to the hospital. It was not like an in-house chemo. Is that an in-house chemo? And I have to go to National Cancer Center in like godly hours in the morning, like 6:45 to 7, because I have to meet the chemo timing of 8 AM, right? Imagine how much Grab is during peak hours. It's like $30 to $40. And that is when I was living in Kovan, which is not that far off. It was insane. Like, imagine doing that, going to the hospital, $30 to $40, going back, because technically I was telling myself, okay, let's take the MRT, but then after chemo, right, I don't think you have the energy to take the MRT. Obviously, you are immunocompromised, so being around that many people during like, I wouldn't say COVID period, but there was still some COVID things happening. It wasn't the best choice lah, so I had to take Grab. Okay, so imagine just for a week, you have to take $40 per trip times 2 because it's to and fro, and you times that by 5. That's like $400 eh. That's insane eh. That is just the cost for my treatment. But during the healing periods, there's also transport costs for my parents, and my parents live in Choa Chu Kang, I live in Kovan, you know, so they have to Grab all the way, bringing groceries and stuff like that. And that was also the time when my parents didn't know how to use Grab. So when I book Grab for them, right, I pay lor because it's my credit card inside the Grab app, right? Another thing was actually the fertility thing. So it's kind of sad that I didn't have any subsidies for the fertility treatments. Basically, before chemo, I had to go for sperm banking. It's like all the TV shows, you know, they wank off and then they give the sample and then they put in the freezer. So for sperm banking, right, it's like a Netflix subscription. That means, right, you have this like account or like a storage facility under your name, and then they will just put your sperm inside. That totals to about 500 per annum. But the thing is, right, every single deposit you need to pay. So I need to go and wank, put in the cup, give them, then I pay $150. And I had to do it like 7 times in the span of a few weeks lah, because they were trying to accumulate as many soldiers as possible, you know, so that when they use it for the conquering of the egg, right, got enough. And also I think because my sperm were not the best condition, they're not PES A, they like PES E. So basically they were PES E sperms, and there were a couple of times where I was like out drinking or like I wasn't really sleeping the best way. And truth be told, right, the sperm collected right after the sessions of drinking and like not sleeping well, they really like mabuk and like tired. So they are like, I wouldn't say unusable, but it was not the best specimen. Next question, did you feel embarrassed at any point of your treatment? There was one time, I was just sitting in the ward, and then the doctor came up, one of the doctors came up and asked me, hey, we have a couple of students here, and because you are one of the only people in the hospital with this condition, if it's okay with you, can we get them to check it out? So I said yes, because you know, what's wrong, right? It's all clinical and stuff like that. So I was lying down, then the curtain slowly opened, and then not 1, not 2, but 7 students came in. So the doctor was like, okay, there'll be 1 by 1 trying to feel your testicle. What? You didn't tell me this? I thought it was just going to be like, you know, a show and tell. Like, hey, what's up, man? It was a show and tell and more. They had to examine it and like really touch it and like just, you know, play with the ball. And I was like, what the heck did I sign up for? Because I was doing this, right? And then the funniest thing is, because it was such an awkward experience, they will come up to me, then my ball in the air, right? And then they were like, can? You know, like they're asking for permission. Then I'm like, yeah, sure. And then I have to like take my penis, then I have to shove it at the one side so that like they have full access to the right ball lah, right? Like I said, I didn't really feel embarrassed, but there was a point where I knew that they know me from the online space. When they entered, right, then they look at me, then they look at each other. Then I know, it's like a knowing look, you know? It was so funny lah. Okay, what was the most challenging aspect of your cancer diagnosis personally? I think this is pretty common. You know, during chemo, you are very weak and there are a lot of side effects. One of the side effects is actually puking. The challenging thing for me is because I was bulimic from poly all the way to beginning of TSL, right? It was very conflicting for me because chemo was making my body feel like puking or actually puking. But because I have like bulimic history, right, it was like satisfying a small bit of my brain. And just because I was puking, although it hurts, right, it was like ugh, and then my throat hurts, everything hurts, the muscles, the cramping and everything, it hurt. But there was a small part in my brain that was like, wow, at least you're getting thinner, which I think is damn unhealthy. Because the days after that, right, I was not just okay with puking, but I was like looking forward to it because I know that I'll be damn skinny. And I actually lost like around 7 kg during this chemo treatment and surgery lah. How did you cope with the emotional impact of your diagnosis and treatment? Luckily, I still had Xiao Small during that period. She was with me during the post-surgery lah. There were actually days where I just didn't wanna leave my bed I was wallowing and like shouting in the universe, God, why me? And because she was with me, right, I was forced to get up out of the bed. Because, you know, suddenly in my mind, I'm like, I am responsible for this life. I need to go and feed her. I need to go and walk her so that she doesn't, you know, suffer. So that sense of responsibility took over. Aside from that, I actually opened myself up to my family and friends more. Actually, in general, it's very difficult for me to show emotions. I've always been the guy that will, okay, you tell me the problem, I will settle it for you. If I can do it myself, I will do it myself. I actually tried battling cancer alone, by myself. But I lasted for a week. And then I died. But I think, right, like opening myself up and being vulnerable actually was a good thing lah, because I really could feel the love and care from my family and friends. Family who is literally taking care of me, and friends who are like, you know, entertaining me. Or like even when before treatment, right, I went with friends to go overseas for my last hurrah because chemo is gonna be hell. They were damn ons about it. So I'm really glad that I have a very good support system. Were there any unexpected sources of support or inspiration that helped you during your journey? I've never been admitted to a hospital before, so all I knew about hospital staff, nurses, healthcare professionals were from TV, like Grey's Anatomy. But I experienced firsthand on care and concern is, in the medical perspective, I would say that the nurses and like the hospital staff that were like catering to me, right, it made me feel very supported in a time when I couldn't bring a friend or a loved one or like a family member during chemo because it was still during like COVID period, so they were trying to like minimize the crowding. I tried to make jokes lah, and they laugh at my jokes. So if they laugh at my jokes, it's like affirmation, you know. And I would say that I think I was quite funny. I think I was very entertaining for them also. What advice would you give to someone who has just been diagnosed with cancer? Know that you are not alone. You have your family, you have your friends, and if you are not fortunate enough to have those, you still have a community of cancer survivors. There are actually a lot of support groups that help you in these trying times. So you can always ask around. You can ask the nurses or the hospital staff if there is a particular cancer group. Like for example, if I got testicular cancer, right, there's actually a support group for testicular cancer, and it's all like young men like me. There's actually also this support group called the Walnut Warriors. It's basically prostate cancer patients and survivors. There are also support groups for others like breast cancer, cervical cancer, all these things. Being in contact with people, not just from your own type of cancer, but also cancer in general. You get to hear their stories and you just get a sense of, okay, I'm not alone. Next one. How did your perspective on life change throughout your cancer journey? Of course, I was sad, depressive, you know, feeling very down and always very anxious like in the first month. But after that, I was like, you know what, dude, snap out of it. You know, you're pretty much one of the YOLOest guy you know. I mean, you went all in on crypto, so that's quite YOLO already. And you lost $150,000. But anyway, that's a different story. I was just telling myself, find the silver lining in these things. And life is too short to feel sad all the time. So I just went out, tried to obviously heal and like be healthy, but also like try to pursue my dream. The current job that I had was the closest to my dream job, but it wasn't my dream job. So that's why I started my own company. It's called Singlife SG. Were there any particular treatments or therapies that you found especially helpful in managing symptoms or side effects? Okay, to be honest, I feel like I experienced cancer like, it wasn't like full-scale cancer because it was also early stage. It was definitely painful, but I think the major side effects, I read somewhere, right, like you lose sensation of your fingertips, extreme headaches and pain in your scalp, which they use like the ice caps for. I didn't have those. I only got my hair dropping, but that's it. And also like the puking and like the constipation and like the diarrhea. Okay, it seems a lot lah, but to be honest, like I said, cancer light, I'm very fortunate, early stage, so it wasn't that bad for me. But of course, when I was going through it, pain lah. But I think like the sleepy kind of like medication, right, really helped because I just slept most of my cancer away. In what ways did your experience with cancer impact your outlook on health and wellness? I do put a conscious effort in terms of my eating habits. I try to keep it as healthy as possible. Of course, there are some binge days, but I try to keep that to the minimal lah. But I think my outlook towards health and wellness, it's not just targeted towards me, but also my family. Like I always ask them to like, hey, can you eat healthier? The rice I changed to quinoa. You know, even like for my brother who is overweight, right? I would tell him, okay, I will get you an Everdesk Plus if you lose 20 kg by the end of the year. He hasn't, but that's an offer that I put on the table right there to entice him. When you found out you had cancer, did you immediately give up? There wasn't a point in my whole diagnosis where I was like, wow, I give up. I think also because, like I said, I really am very fortunate to get early stage cancer and find that I have early stage cancer, because I cannot say for those later stage ones. Definitely those are so scary and very sad. I do admire people who, you know, try to find the more positive things in life, even for the later stages. This sounds very cliche or whatever, but 加油. Like I said, there's always a support group. I can be your support group. If you need to talk, I will try and talk to you. Yeah. Oh, you're suddenly emotional. How has your life changed since? Through this experience, I found it easier to start a new chapter in my life. So I was a young kid watching Ryan Higa and I was like, damn, I want to be a YouTuber, I want to be a content creator, I want to make videos, make people laugh, make people feel something. And I'm on my way to start my company and build a team that can do just that. You know, inspire and hopefully inspire the me of the new generation. In what ways did your experience with cancer impact your career or professional goals? And how did you navigate those challenges? Okay, despite being sick and being on hospitalization leave, I was still working because I didn't have the critical illness that would have helped me with income replacement. So I couldn't like just drop everything and just rest, because during that time I was still freshly into a new rental contract, so that was quite insane. 2 weeks into like moving out, right, I was diagnosed with cancer. So I still had to maintain my job because I had rent to pay. I still had a lot of things to pay, and I've always felt very afraid of being replaced. So I was just continuously working, and I didn't want to be on sick leave for way too long, because when they hire somebody who replaces you for that period, if the guy do very well, how? Or the girl do very well, how? What would happen to me at the end of this whole scenario, right? What advice do you have for friends and family members of cancer survivors to better understand and support their loved ones during and after treatment? Honestly, right, just give a bit of space to these people to comprehend the diagnosis. I was very lucky enough that I had a place that I can call my own during that period, and I can rest, you know, fully by myself, because sometimes you really just don't want to do anything. There was a point where my mom was like, no, you go back to Choa Chu Kang, and I fought her over it, because if I were to be there, I love my mom so much, I love my family so much, but everyone always needs some personal space, and I felt like being in my own house was healing already. Did this journey connect you with other survivors? If yes, did they play a role in keeping you motivated? I think during the diagnosis, it was very hard for me because I was keeping everything hush-hush. I wasn't in social media and everything like that. But ever since I talked about it and was sharing and being open about the diagnosis and like my whole journey, right, I feel a lot of support, a lot of love, and also, like I said, this is the reason for this video, a lot of questions and queries about cancer in general. And you know, I love that I have some sort of purpose in terms of spreading awareness with this kind of health issues, and there are people who are already cancer patients, some of the audiences out there who have reached out, and we have talked and shared our own experiences here and there. And I think this was something that I was looking for during my diagnosis, because I really had nobody to talk to. And I hope that with all the stuff that I have done throughout the year about my journey and stuff like that, I hope that it helped at least one person who is struggling with a sickness that they feel they can't deal with themselves. Okay, so that's the end of this Q&A video, and I hope you guys found it educational and also entertaining, because some of my stories is whack. But I would like to thank Singlife for not just being the insurance company that I signed 10 years ago that is the one that helped me pay for my hospital bills. I'm really very thankful that they came on board to let me tell my story and support me in the back end lah. Speaking of Singlife and insurance, I think it's very important that you keep yourself covered, you know? Don't be like me. Don't be the guy that thinks, you know, you healthy, you very young, nothing can go wrong. Because like Murphy's Law, anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Just be safe rather than sorry. Aside from, you know, having hospitalization plan, which I got like the Singlife Shield, there's also critical illness plans. Please go and research on critical illness plans as well, because I was lucky that I still had a job, but some people, like some of my chemo buddies, right, they had to go for multiple cycles of chemo, they had to go for radiation, so it's not like you can keep a job. So critical illness plans does help with, you know, income replacement. There are also specific things like Cancer Cover Plus from Singlife. So in terms of like additional costs that would be incurred during your treatment, right, Cancer Cover Plus from Singlife is also a top up. Yeah, so I'm sad that I don't have that top up because I got cancer, and every time an insurance person asks me about it, I'm like, I'm blacklist because nobody gonna sign me already, man. So don't be like me, okay? Go and get yourself covered. But anyway, for more information about Cancer Cover Plus or anything Singlife, anything insurance related, it will all be in the description box below. And of course, I hope that my next video will be titled Remission Low. And with that, I'll say my piece. Goodbye, guys. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.